just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, and what an ordeal. Holy heckers. Okay, so this is what happened, people. Initially, I wanted to get a beautiful shot out in the red desert. So we were going to do that, but then we got a bunch of stuff that we have to do later today. So that got canned. And so, you know what? Let's meet halfway. So we said, let's go out the front of the Sphere and do it in the car park. You know, a bit down and dirty, getting amongst the people kind of stuff. Anyway, so that was all planned. All week, the weather has been phenomenal. Like, honestly, perfect. And then we wake up today, and it is blowing a Megan gale out there.
Yeah. Blowing a Christopher gale. It's full on out there, isn't it? So we went down there. Fantastic car park, fantastic Sphere as well. At least we got to soak that in, but wouldn't have been able to do a podcast out there.
Sphere as round as I expected.
Absolutely. How good was it?
Every bit as round as you expect it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's been an ordeal. So we were supposed to start about nearly 2 hours ago, I'd say. But we're here now in the hotel room and ready to go. We are ready to go. So
it's a lock-in. The blinds have been closed. We're doing a podcast.
Yes, we're doing a podcast, guys. In Vegas, usually there's other lock-ins happening. But today, it's a podcast for the audience. Now, boys, first of all, how has the Vegas trip... Ru, I want to speak to you first, mate. Talk about starting this trip off with a win. I cannot believe it. Once you told me this, I could not believe it. Can you walk to people through the win that you had on the way here?
Yeah, I was very lucky, mate. Getting on the plane, premium economy, I was sitting in, and ticket didn't work. Thought I'm in some curry here, and then walked over, got my new ticket, and a little upgrade to business. Shout out to whoever in Qantas is a Guru podcast listener. How good?
And you've thrown in a free subscription to the Roo Crew for the rest
of course,
of the year?
Yeah. Welcome to the Roo Crew.
Yeah.
So he was in a bit of Steph Curry, and he sorted it out. Free upgrade to business. You've gone from, oh my God, I'm not going to make the plane, to I'm in business.
Well, we have literally had a kangaroo on the side of the plane, so made sense.
The flying Roo. Literally.
The Omen. Timmy, mate, how's your trip been?
It's been great, mate. A few nights at the Yosemite National Park leading into it, just to relax and sort of get ready for Vegas. I've now had 7 nights in Vegas, and it's been unreal. I'm ready to go home. It's started the week in style with the Roo over here, and met him for one drink and twisted his arm, and we ended up being out for another 6 hours. I introduced the Roo to blackjack for the first time, and
it was a 6 a.m. walk-in.
It was actually, yeah.
Any inflatable baseball bats involved?
No inflatable baseball bats, but yeah, taught him blackjack, and he got pretty comfortable and pretty arrogant very quickly. Actually,
I can sense a bit of arrogance in Roo on the drink.
We got there, and we had this legend of a dealer named Gigi, and he goes, Roo pulled a 16, and Gigi had a 5, and Roo goes, hit me, and he goes, sir, I suggest that you sit on that one. And Roo just looked at him and hit me, and he goes, are you sure, sir? And Roo just looks at him and goes, did I stutter? GG pulls a king, goes to 25. Roo goes to 25. Sorry, sir, takes his money.
That's great stuff. That is great stuff. Don't forget, guys, Could Be Anything merch still available on bloke.shop. Few left, so make sure to get on quickly and grab some CBA merch. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that like button. It's really been helping us, guys. We've had a bunch of subscribers. I mean, we were struggling to hit 50,000. We're already 1,300 above 50,000. So literally, it takes 2 seconds. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Like the video. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify as well. It's genuinely really helping, guys. Like, I can't believe I spent the last nearly 10 years not saying it. What an idiot. So, yeah, it really does help. Hit that like button. Also brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Grab some Grumpy Coffee, guys. Go to grumpycoffee.com.au. Got some beautiful blends. We got pods. We got ground. We got whole bean. Give it a try. I promise you, won't be disappointed. Guaranteed you won't be disappointed. But let's get into some Face to Music brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet who sent us over here. Very, very grateful. What a trip it's been.
Absolutely. It's been great. Follow us on the feed. Got very close with a couple of multis, sort of in that.
I had a bad beat. I
had a bad beat as well. Yeah. Emotional stuff. But stick with us because, we're getting pretty close there on a couple of those.
Because I had Case McLean 2 or more.
Yep.
Laurie goes on, falls over the line for 2 or more. Just saying.
Yep. Them's the breaks, mate.
Yep.
Them's the breaks.
It's the city of bad beats, boys. Please.
Absolutely. So, hey, just very quickly, we are going to resolve the preseason 2025 Face the Music shortly after this. In fact, that's where we're going next.
Speaking of dynasties.
Yeah. we're off to the Heart Attack Grill. Unfortunately, I finished last in the preseason on 3 points, so I'll be getting a spanking.
Omen. West Tigers Omen.
Oh, come on, mate.
What from Kempy?
That's a low blow. No, from one of the trained spanking professionals
Yeah,
at the Heart
trained.
Attack Grill.
Don't do this.
Don't
at
try and turn this into something it's not, Timmy.
Yeah.
Do you
Very weird.
BYO one of your own 3 wooden spoons, or do they provide for you?
Rude from the top rope.
Is there anyone here from
Oh.
Bloke HR that I can...
Oh my! No, this is a sports bet. This is all sports bet
okay.
HR.
Well, we're very well resourced in that area, so you're going to be in some strife. But yes, I'll be going down there. I will be facing the music for the first time this year, so that's a bit of a shame. But we got off to a new.
Actually, just quickly before I forget, we were speaking yesterday, and we were thinking maybe the end of year punishment for facing music could be the loser has to enter a full-on day of LARPing.
Yeah, live action role play.
Live action role play. So, I mean, I've got my Harry Potter shirt on, but I
Yeah.
had my Aragorn shirt on yesterday.
That's Vegas, not Magic Round, mate.
Yeah. Well, we bought the magic though. That's
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
true. Yeah.
Anyway, so we started talking about LARPing and
Yep.
how maybe getting dressed up like Aragorn.
Yep.
And then we thought, what if the Face the Music end of season loss was you had to not only LARP but a whole day of it and fully get into it too.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Kempy was very sort of insistent on it, and I think the stewards might have a good look at his results if he starts tanking and losing. I think essentially what it boiled down to is Kempy wants to go LARPing. So
That's why. Hey, listen, I'm on top of the table right now, baby.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments section. Do you want to see one of the boys LARP seriously, or it's all filmed, all done? We may also join them LARPing. Maybe we're their enemy. I'm not sure. But the loser has to LARP. And LARPing is live action role play. What is that? They dress up like in old, and they like cast spells at each other.
Yep.
Pretend to be old knights and that. The loser of Face the Music has to do it in the
You absolutely want to do
Yeah,
this.
this has got you written all over it.
I'm literally winning right now, so you can already throwing allegations. It's fine. It's
It's a
fine.
Tuesday at Bloke HQ.
Oh,
Matty versus Kempy. Yes, we'll go and watch Role Models if you're not up to speed with what LARPing is. One of the great movies, and that'll give you all the context.
So
that you sort
as
of
I
need.
said, I think it sounds like because no one gets hurt, no one has to shave anything or do anything strange.
Mm.
So it might be the end of the year punishment for the loser.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what is no LARPing matter is the results from this week, and we've got a new scoring system. We're going with the odds, which I think, it's going to create a little bit more work for me. But I think it's going to actually increase, the ability for people to come from behind and win and all that sort of stuff. So
The Madison Keys rule.
yeah, exactly. After Roo, I was given the same amount of points for was it like a Big Bash head-to-head win, and you had Madison Keys at
It's a
$31.
$1.21 song you picked.
That's right. Oh, yeah, that's Roy Lotus, and which I stand by. Great band, love their work. But yes, after that debacle, we've decided to pivot to this. So the results from this week, we had the Raiders versus the Wars. Now, obviously, the Raiders winning 30 points to 8 in that game. Well done, Timmy, to
you,
the
mate.
Raiders. Not that you picked the correct margin in it, but that's okay. Denon, Roo, and Timmy, you all had them 1 to 12. Raiders 13 plus doesn't happen often. In fact, a Raiders win at Allegiant Stadium doesn't happen often. I think the actual Raiders won about 4 games this year.
Yeah, they've struggled. The thing I also liked about this game, 30 points to 8. Last time Ricky Stewart beat the Warriors 30 points to 8 was the 2002 grand final.
Ooh,
Great omen.
Good from
Okay.
you,
So
Roo.
we should be
Good
coming.
from you.
There we go.
Matty took the Raiders 13 plus. So he got
That's outrageous.
580 in the bank.
Huge gap.
That's not a bad get from, and we all got stuck into him at the time.
Fuck, Matty.
I had the Raiders head to head at $2.28. We were the only people to collect points from that game. Next game, Penrith.
Oh, so we don't get points for the tip.
No, it's just
Oh, so
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Surely. So no points at all. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow.
All right, I'm on board. I'm with
yeah,
you.
okay, I get you now.
'Cause the
I
next-
thought
This
we
is
get
going-
something
this is
'cause we
going
got it
further
correct.
south then.
Well, don't complain too much, Kebby, because you took the coward's way out in this next one. So the Panthers 28 defeat the Sharks 22. You had Penrith head to head at $1.53.
Thank you.
So you're on the board there.
Thank you.
Everyone else tried to get a little bit more sort of, exotic with it. Roo, you had the Sharks plus 4.5,
Yeah.
didn't get up.
Exotic with it, more like fucking shit betting. How about that?
Goodness me.
What a
Yeah, how about
rubbish.
that?
It's going to be
Hey, I'm just fucking return and serve. Out of nowhere, you come at me calling me coward's way out.
any
I get
time.
on the board, you're about to get spanked.
I reckon any time I have anything under $2, you're into me. $1.53,
Mate,
you
it's
go.
a head-to-head bet. It's not a bloody winger scoring anytime try scorer.
That is boring though, to be fair, Kempy.
It's just a head-to-head bet, baby.
You're
That's all
taking
it
the
is.
4-time premiers.
Yeah, but
head.
everyone said they were going to start slow, so actually it's a great bet.
$1.53.
You've
mate.
been talking all week about how Sharks
Yeah,
are going to win.
$1.53. Roo, you had the Sharks plus 4.5. Timmy and Matty had the Sharks 1 to 12. I just had the Sharkies head to head. No points there. So
So who got the points?
You did.
Thank you.
Well done, mate. So Matty is out on front, $5.80. I'm $2.28, and then you're sitting there at $1.53. You boys yet to get off the mark for season 2025.
So what did you get points for in the other game? Did you go
I'd Raiders head to head.
Raiders head to head?
Yeah, the outsiders.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's brave. That's good. That's
Thank
good
you.
punning.
Yeah,
Very
that's-
brave.
thank
The
you.
outsiders. I respect that.
Thanks.
Mm.
$1.53
For sure.
favourite, not
Good
really
for me,
my
I think.
style. But there you go. That is where we're sitting so far for Face the Music for this season with the new scoring system. Again, a little bit more work, but I think it's going to evoke a bit more discussion. And
Definitely invoked a passion here.
it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Mm.
And yes, we'll be off to the Heart Attack Grill a little bit later today.
Because talk about the preseason loss that you had.
Yeah, preseason loss. So I finished, I was on 3 points, which was well below everybody else. I think you boys were both on 4, Matty on 5, you on 6.
Thanks for coming.
So I'll be facing the music a little bit later today.
There you go. Face the Music brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. Give us a follow on the feed. It's going to get very interesting this year because now Matty, he can go for his big swings like he does and actually get up.
Yep.
He's ahead now. Wasn't he last year? He was terrible last year.
Yeah, he didn't have his best season, Matty, but chip leader so far.
There we go. Face the Music brought to you by Sportsbet. Alrighty, boys. Let's get into it, shall we? Menulog, Hungriest player. We actually haven't discussed this. Do we all agree Isaiah Yeo? Hungriest player?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy with
Yep.
that.
Isaiah Yeo.
He was great.
And then honourable mention, Starling from the Raiders.
He was fantastic as well.
And also maybe Savage from the Raiders.
Yeah.
Any other honourable mentions? Hudson Young?
Mate. Hudson Young, Liam Martin, I thought was excellent.
Yep.
Mm.
Nath Cleary, another big game.
Cleary?
As well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Hungriest player brought to you by our friends over at Menulog, and this is going to get you. Use code VEGAS, VEGAS, for free delivery. Minimum spend $30, but the hungriest player is Isaiah Yeo, boys. Isaiah Yeo. I was saying this is going to be not controversial, but this is going to, it's a little bit spicy. But you look at Isaiah Yeo's career as a forward. He's got, on paper, he's actually got a better career than nearly any forward ever. We're talking about Sonny Bill, we're talking about Sam Burgess, we're talking about even Gal, and yet, he's still not mentioned in those breaths. I think we've already got to start talking about him like one of the greatest forwards ever. I understand he doesn't have the X factor of a Sammy or a Sonny Bill Williams or you name it, a Bradley Clyde, whatever. And yet, is he not one of the greatest forwards of all time? Arguably already one of the greatest forwards of all time.
Yeah, I think runs on the board, just what he's done over the last years. He has to be in that conversation. As you said, mate, I think it's the highlights that he probably lacks over those other guys. And even, he obviously got the Golden Boot. Was that this year or the year before?
This year.
Just got it, yeah.
That's like the first major award he's got realistically. So I think that's probably the stuff that holds him back a little bit. But I mean, mate, we keep talking about this Panthers side and the players they keep losing and how, they just keep it together. And I think everyone straight away looks at Nath Cleary and go, he's the guy keeping it together.
It's Isaiah Yeo.
Man, I think Yeo's criminally underrated. Whenever Nath falls out of that side or gets injured or whatever it might be, Isaiah Yeo is the glue that holds him together.
Well, in my opinion, at the start of the game, I thought Cleary looked a bit clunky, understandably so. It's the first game of the season. Yep. Who was the bloke in that first half that was holding it together for the Panthers? It was Isaiah Yeo, in my opinion. And Cleary obviously then eventually found his touch, his rhythm, all that kind of stuff. Again, understandably clunky. It's the first game of the season. Isaiah Yeo, for me, was incredible the first 20 minutes. Actually, almost, I wouldn't say kept them in the game, but I would say, do they win that game without Isaiah Yeo? I don't know if they do. That's how important he is. Just like, do they win it without Cleary? No. But I'm just saying that, like what you said, Roo, we all always point to Cleary as he's the main man. But, if Cleary is 1A for me, Yeo is 1B, not even 2. That's how close he is in importance for me. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, well, you look at the leads of that forward pack, and for many years it's been James Fisher-Harris. He leaves, Isaiah Yeo, he now steps up as captain there. He was captain of the Kangaroos at the end of last year as well, where he won that Golden Boot. So won another premiership, Golden Boot, captain the Roos, now first game, not to say he hasn't led the pack before, but
captain the Blues when Jake Trbojevic was off as well to a record-breaking win in Suncorp.
So he's 12 months. He's done everything.
Yeah.
Except win the Clive Churchill medal.
Pretty much. So
which he probably came second or third.
Which he could have won.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. So, yeah, you look at his resume at the moment, and I think a real key one for me is Game 3, decider in Suncorp. Jake Trbojevic, what did he play, 20 minutes maybe? Me personally, Jake Trbojevic was almost like a spiritual leader for the Blues. It was all the off-field stuff. But on the field, it was Isaiah Yeo that was the captain. He was the one that led you boys to 15 years since you'd beaten Brisbane in Suncorp or something like that?
Yep.
That's an incredible resume. His resume is arguably better than nearly any forward's resume ever. Like, it's incredible. And I know that, as I said, I know he may not have the X factor of, say, a Taumalolo at his peak, or a Sonny Bill, or a Sam Burgess, or a Bradley Clyde, or, even a Webby or a Petro. Like, they've got a bit of X factor. They have these big moments, whereas Isaiah seems to be more of just a constantly giving you a 9 out of 10 every single run.
Yeah, consistency in everything he does
Yep.
is quality.
I think
Absolutely.
he's more and more becoming like what Cooper Cronk was. Doesn't have the highlights,
Yeah,
of the
it's a great point.
JTs, the Joeys, these sort of guys, but
The resume is
just
crazy.
happens to be every team he's in wins most
Yeah.
times.
And
And has
like,
to count for something.
I reckon the biggest like boon for Cronk's career was the series in 2014 when he got injured for Game 3. I think, was it Cronk that went down, or was
Yes.
it?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
Cronk that went down. DCE came in, and I feel like if he plays that game, maybe Queensland might have won it.
Yep.
But you notice Cronk's absence more than you notice his presence to a degree, and I think Isaiah would be a bit similar.
Yeah, if you have a look at that Origin series, Cronk got injured in the first 5 minutes. Queensland were up in that game.
Mm.
They then lost the next 2 games. He came back in Game 3 and they swept them.
Yeah.
Put them in the last game, yeah.
So yeah, Isaiah Yeo for me, what another start to the year. What do you reckon, Hammy? Are we going too far here?
No,
or-
no, love it. I'm on board. And the great news for Isaiah Yeo, and this is rare for the big fellas, particularly so early in the season, he's off the nudie run. Got to meet Pie in
Boom.
the first game as well,
Yep,
over in
love that.
Vegas. How good's that? So
Love
saved
that.
himself a bit later in the year, but very impressive. He was just a constant threat with the ball all night last night. Just so consistent, doesn't miss his tackles, just gets through so much work. Another great performance. Yeah.
All right, let's get into the first game, shall we? Let's get into just the week in total. First of all, I want to give the NRL a massive, massive rap. What an incredible week. Everything has been perfect except for one thing. One thing. I think on game day, they missed a trick by not having a women's game, Australia versus New Zealand, or New South Wales versus Queensland. I think that the only stumble the NRL had this week was the women's game, because the women's, they're copping all the flack of like, look at this blowout. Then it's not the women's fault that they got pitted against the England side that wasn't ready to play them. It's the NRL that put that game on. It should have been Australia versus New Zealand, in my opinion, or it should have been New South Wales versus Queensland. Now, granted, I understand that, to play in Origin, you need a series and all that kind of stuff, and you need a build up for it and training and everything. But in saying that, like, if you had a one-off at the start of the year and then maybe had the next 2 in the middle of the year, I don't know how you would do it, but I just think that I feel like the girls got let down a little bit because they had no choice but to play against an England side that wasn't ready for them. That's the only little stumble. Outside of that, it was an absolutely incredible week.
I completely agree, mate. I think that the NRL did a bit of a disservice to the women's game here by pitting them up against that England side. I was there on Friday for all the captains' runs at Allegiant Stadium, and even just watching the English team there, you just eyeballing them, you just knew that was going to be a massacre.
I think everyone knew. Like,
Yeah.
I very rarely, before a game, go such and such team is going to get absolutely annihilated.
Yeah.
I knew Australia, I was saying it to people at the front before, I said Australia's going to absolutely annihilate England. And so, as I said, I hope people, I know the wider audience aren't going to know the context and the nuance or whatever, but I hope actually rugby league fans, don't get upset at the women's game. It was the NRL that made this decision, and I don't necessarily get upset at the NRL, but it wasn't the women that put this on. It was the girl, the NRL that did.
Well, I think the bookies knew. I think they're paying $1.01 or $1.03 or something.
Yeah.
The margin was like 50 plus or something.
Well, the line was only 36.5, so
Well, there you go.
Wow.
congrats if you
Got on the
got
line.
Yeah.
Surely just make it the Ferns, the Kiwi girls.
Yep.
Like,
You had the New Zealand Warriors playing directly before.
made so much sense.
I don't understand why they didn't do that. Anyway, so that was a stumble. However, everything outside of that, I do think, though, in regards to order of games, I think they should go Super League, women's game, back-to-back NRL games.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect setup, because like whatever type of rugby league you like, then you can kind of almost arrive for that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're just an NRL fan and you just like watching the NRL, you don't necessarily watch the women's game and you don't watch the Super League, you're almost forced to sit through a game that you not really that, I know it's all about introducing it to new people and all that kind of stuff. However, if you're paying that much money, you want to have the best experience possible. And I really felt they should have gone back-to-back NRL games, in my opinion.
I would agree with that because the Raiders Warriors game, people are fizzing up and about, and I think
It was packed as well.
It was packed, and I think particularly because the Sharkies Panthers game too, probably top 4 teams, or they were last year at least. I feel like a lot of people got fatigued because 4 games is a lot to kind of be there right the way through. So probably a few people left the stadium and missed out on the last.
Because you're not
game.
allowed back in over here.
Correct, no pass outs.
So I don't know. I know that there might be the reason they do that potentially is to keep people in to hopefully watch much footy as possible, or maybe it's a ticketing thing. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think they've just got to sort that order out, in my opinion.
The Pommy fans were so good,
Oh,
though. Like, after that Wigan win, like, we know what their culture's like with the sport and the singing, the chanting and all that. Firstly, they were doing it all week. You just run into random groups and they're just singing and drunk and carrying and having fun. It was awesome to see. After the Wigan game, I just saw this group of, I don't know, maybe 100 to 150 of the fans. They were in sort of the, just out where you go out into your seats, jumping up and down, singing, chanting. Honestly, they were doing it non-stop after the Wigan win for about an hour.
Yeah.
Like, the footy was going on outside. That, we don't care. We're just sitting out here and we're singing and dancing and having fun.
Yeah.
They kind of absorbed the Raiders fans. So they joined forces with them and became
Yeah.
Raiders fans. Both supporters bases down that end of the ground had wins, and it was popping off down there. It was a little bit quieter up the other end, wasn't it?
It was so good.
What do you reckon, Roo, in regards to the order?
I agree with you. That's the order I would go for. And I think that, just looking at the week as a whole, outside of what happened with the women's game, I really thought the NRL just nailed everything else.
Nailed it.
The fan experience, I went to a Warriors event the other day and had a Warriors fan telling me that they were on their flight over and Sean Johnson served their dinner to them.
Yeah.
Like, I caught up with Shawnee after that and he was just, like, he said, mate, I've never been on this side of the fence with the fans, and it's probably opened my eyes to how much it actually means to people and how it's just this Vegas trip and, being on that charter with the Warriors, like, all the fans got served their dinner by Dallin and Sean.
Yeah.
Like, and shout out to Dallin, like, he's got one arm completely all Gonski, and he delivered food for an entire plane. Like, just sensational stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went out to the Warriors Nation get-together. There was like 140 of them that don't know each other, but all come together, went to Atomic Golf. And you really see people that work hard-earned jobs. They save money up for months and months and months and spend their hard-earned money. And so it is a really good experience to just go and hang out with them, to know how much they've sacrificed to be here and also how much they love the game. So, as outside of that tiny little stumble, everything else was a 10 out of 10. And the amount of work that would have gone into this, I cannot express, like just our own little content thing, the amount of work that goes into that, like, Hammy, you can talk about it, like, and then you boys as well, obviously, but the amount of work that goes into just for your content, imagine having to do that for 4 teams or 8 teams or whatever. Yeah. It would be like a mountain of work.
Absolutely, and they've just churned it out. We've bumped into a few of the guys and girls who are kind of in charge of their content. They're constantly filming stuff. It's a great trip to be part of, but geez, and you guys will know as well, you're constantly kind of like filming and working hard. But the guys that are running that kind of NRL channel, hats off, because they haven't stopped. It's looked spectacular, and they've just kind of covered off on everything, giving everyone a real good look at what it's like back home. And hopefully, if you're a fan back home who hasn't been yet, through all the work that those guys have done and, some of the stuff that you might have seen through our channels, it inspires you to want to get over here because it is like, it's so good. It's almost like, Magic Round a couple of years ago became the thing to do, which is still great and probably one of my favourite weekends of the year. But if your team's playing over here and you get the opportunity, you've got to come over and experience it. Like the Fan Fest for me, last year, I couldn't believe, I was like, this is untoppable. But it just went to a whole nother level. The English fans and stuff there this year, like, and geez, they branded it up so beautifully. Like, it's such a good experience, and they absolutely nailed it.
That Fan Fest really went to another level this year.
Yeah.
I was the same. I remember standing Fan Fest last year and just looking around going, it can't get better than this. And this year blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The English fans and then the dance-offs on the stage and stuff, like, it was fever pitch. It was so good. And it was absolutely packed. There was like 10,000 or 12,000 fans just completely taking over that Fremont Street.
And I didn't come last year. So when I heard stories about, it's a raging success and we took over this and we took over that, you do go, how much of this is marketing speak? And like, they're never going to come out and say, it wasn't that good or we didn't really take over the strip. I can tell you right now, rugby league took over Vegas. Like the jerseys are everywhere. Every cab you got into, every Uber you got into, they immediately knew you were talking about the rugby. There was an ice hockey game on, and that was nowhere near as big as the rugby league. And also, it's the perfect time of the year in Vegas where they're just coming out of the quiet time. So we actually have our own kind of slot here. It's just amazing. They've nailed it. There's no smoke and mirrors. At least this year when I've been here, there's no smoke and mirrors in regards to like, it was great, but it really wasn't. it really took over the strip. Like you could see footy fans everywhere.
As you said, Campy, walking up and down the strip, there was just jerseys.
Yep.
And like to credit to the rugby league and the NRL fans as well, because they were loud and proud. Hey, like there was like pommy ones, even not just the teams that played, but maybe it was couples or families, whatever. Not everyone went for the same team, but everyone was repping. Obviously, there was random South jerseys, Eagles jerseys, Tigers jerseys, everywhere.
Yeah, a little story about a Tigers jersey. So we're at the front of the stadium.
This will be one for HR, by the way.
And so we're walking out of the stadium because we went early in the morning to shoot all of our content, and then we went away for an hour and came back. But on the way back, when we were leaving the stadium the first time, we saw a lovely lady in a Tigers jersey, and Hammy gave her a "Go the Tigers," and she scoffed and said, "What, for last?" and kept walking. She had a Tigers jersey on. One of the great all-time moments.
Good to see the confidence just pulsating. I mean, come on. There's no way it's happening again this year. No 4P. If you're watching to that lady, hang in there. I think this is it's going to be a good year for us.
Speaking of jerseys, boys, and I think I saw you post something. The Penrith Panthers gold jersey.
Oh my God.
I'd love to see something like that come in where each year the defending premiers round one open in a gold jersey or something. I think that'd be unreal because that looked fantastic last night.
Yeah, so I posted on my story like the Penrith Panthers jersey this year is a big middle finger to every time you see it, it basically says, "Fuck you, we won 4 premierships." And I love it. Like I love that the Panthers have gone, we're going to think about being an opposing team when they run out and you've got to look across and go, "Oh, that's the 4 premiership Penrith Panthers." I love it. And it's basically like, do something about it. It is screaming, do something about it. I love it. I agree with you, mate. If we could come up with something that, like a unique jersey if you've won the premiership and they have it for the whole year. Because the thing with that, like I know fans will be sitting there going, "Come on, mate, there's so many jerseys, it's so expensive." I get it. But very rarely do you win a premiership and every fan is going to want to wear a premiership style of jersey like the Penrith Panthers have released this year.
You know what I love the most about it too? All the sponsors got on board too.
Yeah,
Changed their
it's all
branding.
in
Shout
colour
out to
coded.
them because I think it's something we need to start to see happen more often in the future.
And funnily enough, when sponsors do that, I feel like people actually engage with the sponsor more
100%.
because they're like, "Thank you for caring about my footy team." But yeah, that jersey, it's one of the greatest jerseys of all time in my opinion. I friggin' love it. And yes, it is a big middle finger to everyone constantly walking around, and respect you. They've earned it. But I love the idea of if you win a premiership, you get a certain type of gold jersey each year. It would be sick. It would go off almost like similar-ish to when Hungriest had his 8 that was gold on the back of his jersey. I don't know what you would do, but that would be really cool. And also, I know there's a lot of jerseys. However, if you've just won a premiership, you want to buy a unique jersey.
Absolutely.
Like you absolutely do. Because like usually everyone's favorite heritage jersey is when they win the comp. Okay, let's get into some rugby league. Raiders versus the Warriors. This game for me, brought to you by KO as well, because actually we'll get into Savage soon because he's our KO can't miss bloke. However, just quickly on the Raiders. Round one footy. I cannot repeat that enough. Round one rugby league. Simple. Very simple to play footy, through the middle, winning the contact, choosing when to offload at the correct times. I just thought Ricky Stewart showed his experience as a coach so much on the weekend. They played round one footy. They weren't going sideways constantly. Like even their first try, I'm pretty sure that was the first time they even spread the ball, their first try. Sebastian Chris obviously reaching up for that try. Super, really impressive game from the Raiders. I felt that, they're showing that I know they've got some young guys coming through, but they're actually showing that they've been together for a few years now, this side. They're showing that they know when to kind of get down and dirty. They know when to loosen the arm a bit. They know when to get gritty in defence. I thought it was a really, really smart performance by the Raiders. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I was relatively confident going in for those reasons, Campy. I thought that their brand of footy was going to suit round one and in Vegas. And whether they finish ahead of the Warriors or not this season, I have no idea. But as you said, there's a tighter field in Vegas. I just thought the Raiders' power game, they play through the middle there, try to play pretty high percentage footy and sort of risk-free footy at times. The Warriors, I sort of thought were going to come out and maybe chance their arm and throw it around a little bit, and they were a bit shaky. We'll get to them soon, but the Raiders' game plan suited. But, mate, what I loved about it, I think you mentioned sort of calculated offloads and offloading and the times to do it, but for a couple of years now with this Raiders side, who our ball movement, our lateral movement, it hasn't been the best. I think there's been a big push and a lot of drive in the offset. I think Justin Giddo's the attacking coach, and particularly in the 20-metre zone, and they're working on that ball movement, and you're short at times, but it's just the offload, mate. There was 17 there, and you saw from the word go, I think Corey Horsburgh had 2 offloads really early on in the game. And if you're going to play this power game through the middle, and that's your sort of style of footy, you have to promote that second phase play. You've got KO Weeks, who's absolutely rapid, sniffing in around the ruck. We saw Xavier Savage, he did a little bit of floating as well at different times. Lean into that. They did it, and it was a great start to the year.
And also, like, you know, you've got Strange at 6. You've got Fogarty at 7. It's not like you've got, you know, Alfie Langer and, you know, Thurston or something together. You've got some pretty conservative ball running. I know Fogarty has ball playing, but he's a conservative 7. And so, like, what are Raiders' strengths? It's their power game, and they lent into it. And also, it's a dry track. There's no, it's a covered stadium, so you couldn't ask for better conditions to offload the footy. It's not dewy, it's not sweaty, and they played to that. Like, I thought, and I just thought they were really smart at when they did decide to offload. Like, yeah, okay, you could go, oh, hang on a sec, there were a couple of times where there was a knock on from an offload or whatever, but they defended those errors. They were willing to dig in and go, all right, yep, we're going to chance our arm a little bit in regards to an offload, but we're going to defend that error, and we're not going to go into our shell after that. We're going to stick to the idea of winning the contact and trying to find smart areas to offload. Just smart footy from the Raiders.
And when they play a conservative style of footy, but they do start to open up a little bit more, and they don't play wide as often, there'll be mistakes. There'll be the odd offload that goes to ground and that goes to the opposition's hands, and that's okay. As long as it doesn't creep in and there becomes too willy-nilly and wild offloading, I'm okay with it. There'll be a couple, but I do think it opens up our game a lot. And in particular, KO Weeks, you mentioned Ethan Strange as well. He's got a bit of the monsters about him where he doesn't necessarily like or do his best footy in structured play. It is when it's the second phase. He's such a strong ball runner where I think he has his biggest impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. What do you think, Roo?
Yeah, I thought you boys summed it up really well. I love that, you know, they came into a stadium here that's a dome, that weather conditions allowed them to offload. And the thing that worries me with Ricky Stewart at times is that when they're not offloading, I don't think the Raiders are playing their best footy. When they are, they're playing great. But when they start to get errors off those offloads, they get a little bit conservative. I love that Ricky just went, nah, let's just lean in and let's just do our thing. And as you said, Kempy, they defended all their errors, which was fantastic. And that's what I love about this Raiders side, that last night they found a really good balance of move the football, but we're also going to keep our hand in the fire longer than anyone. We're going to hang in. And I thought it was a really good performance from them last night.
And I feel like you're really beginning to see, like, this squad has been together for, like, what, 5 years now? You got Tarpany, Papali'i, Horsburgh. Like, they've been together for quite a while. So there was a lot of, like, very connected, knew each other's job, knew where to be, what to do. I've got to say, Tarpany's challenge early in the game, I won't say it was a game changer, but geez, it changed momentum. It changed massive momentum. So the challenge I'm talking about is Chance goes up for a catch. He gets a penalty because Horsburgh touches his leg. Tarpany with usually you never early challenge. You save it for later in the game just in case it's close. Tarpany with a ballsy challenge saying that Chance put his leg out in dangerous contact or whatever. Nailed it. They got the ball back and were attacking the Raiders line. The Warriors line. Like, super smart.
I'll tell you the flow-on effect of that challenge as well, because the penalty was there and Chance was a little bit conscious of it, I think. Later on in the game, I think it was the Seb Chris try off the drop bomb.
Hudson Young
he just didn't get up for it. I reckon that kick was in the front of his mind or in the back of his mind, and I think he stayed on ground when he clearly should have been in the air.
Yeah.
Credit to Hudson Young as well. One of the best workers in the game for forwards. He's a big boy. He's a strong boy. We know he's athletic, but the timing of that run could not have been
millimeters.
Poor old Chance, who has said, if he got off the ground, it would have helped, but it was like a mill from him.
Yeah.
Chance would have been going, stuff that.
Yeah. The impact of that challenge from Tarpany was absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. We'll get to the Warriors eventually, but let's just stick on the Raiders for now. What a great moment for Savage. Like, we're talking about a guy, I swear to God, what wouldn't have been last year it was in the off season of last year, so before the year started. I remember us having conversations off air, not even on air, off air, going, I think Savage is going back to Queensland. Like, we were like, what NRL club? And we were going, I'm hearing whispers it's not even an NRL club, it's potentially bloody Q Cup. He's gone from that to really working on his game last year to a performance like that in Vegas. Like, it just shows you, give young blokes an opportunity. And Ricky Stewart came out last year, said he had a really good chat to Savage's family, to Savage as well, and just understood where the kid was coming from. And sometimes when you just meet halfway, you get performances like that. He was incredible, absolutely incredible.
We went to the Ricky Stewart luncheon at the start of last year, and at that time I walked into that function thinking, geez, I don't know if Savage is going to be in this side this year. And mate, everyone we spoke to, and Timmy obviously knows quite a few of the boys, introduced us to him and stuff, like everyone we spoke to, they kept saying the same thing. He's turned a corner. He's turned a corner. Must have heard it 30 times that day.
Yeah.
And I walked out thinking, okay, he must be the real deal. And since then, he's just flown.
What a game. When he took that intercept, no one was getting close to him.
Yeah. Well, we spoke about it yesterday. Huge week for him. Obviously got engaged out the front of the Bellagio, 2 meat pies, and performed at halftime as well. Hell of a weekend for him.
Love it.
Kudos to him. But he ran over 200 metres. Yes, he had that big length of the field effort, but 60 post contact in that as well, which is showing that he's adding, that was probably a dimension of his game that, the strong, kick returning that he needed to add to his bow. But, mate, he looked so good last night and just caps off a great week for him.
And what's scary about a guy like Savage is, we haven't really seen his potential yet. Like, we are talking about genuinely one of the fastest blokes in the NRL, and we finally kind of saw that put to use, and it's just the beginning. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I think the whole back three, mate, our edges haven't been overly threatening in recent years. But you look now, Weeks, Tamale, who was great, Savage, they busted 7 tackles. They all busted 7 tackles, those back three. But there's speed there. Even Xavier Savage just filled out that little bit more. So it's going to help him defensively. In contact, he's a little bit better. Still a few defensive reads that he'll need to work on the wing there. He's obviously played a lot of fullback in the past as well. But there's so much speed and strength and strike in our back there, which excites me so much.
And with Albert Hopewade not making the side at the moment, depth. Huge
depth. And that's coming from a side that depth in the outside back was almost your biggest problem at stages. And also a side that, when was the last time you could say that the Raiders could have arguably the fastest back three?
Yeah. Well,
maybe never.
Jordy Rapana's been on the wing for 10 years, so
a
while.
You got Weeks and Savage, who are genuine speedsters. So it's just what do you want to have around big forward pack? You want to have some guys that are just really, really fast and can take advantage of offloads. What summed up the Raiders' performance for me was 70th minute, you're a man down, Warriors strip you for numbers, Fisher Harris gets the ball on the edge because you're stripped for numbers, and Tamale jams in and makes a try-saving tackle on a front rower. Granted, obviously, other players came in and helped him, but in the 70th minute, when the game was easily won, already, that's what was the difference, in my opinion, for the Raiders. Their ability to defend their line, because they actually gave the Warriors opportunities. They did make errors. They did invite the Warriors back into the game a couple of times, but their goal line defense was outstanding.
That's it. It forced a lot of really ordinary sort of errors from the Warriors. And we said they would chance their arms, and they look clunky, as we said. We'll get to them shortly. But this is done off the back of good defence and goal line defence, and it frustrated them. So it forced them to try different things and new tactics, and they couldn't break us. The goal line defence was awesome. And as I said, I've no idea how the Raiders are going to go this year. I'm under no illusions that, it's only one game. It doesn't mean that much. But a lot of doubt going into the season about how this side would go. And round one, Ricky Stewart, he gets his players up every single time. Like, they play for him. The effort areas are always there. So
I'll tell you what, they're not going to be easy beats. Okay, there might be a couple of weeks where they're a bit flat or a bit down, but they're just a tough side. And that forward pack, they ran out with Papali'i, Tarpanay, and Horsburgh as your front row and lock. That should be able to go. For example, if you're going to go against Lindsay Smith, Yo, and Leota, you would argue that Papali'i, Tarpanay, and Horsburgh should be able to go with those guys. Now, I'm not saying that they are going to be better than them week in, week out, but there's not a gap in tier, in my opinion, in those three people, especially the guy like Tarpanay. Now, in regards to another player that I thought was, two players, Owen Paddy being brought to the bench has given Starling a new lease of life, in my opinion, and also Starling being given the opportunity of that 9 jersey finally. So in so many years where he's been almost just locked into that 14 jersey, and finally Ricky Stewart said, you know what, I'm going to back in, I'm going to start you at 9. Starling was the best player on the field for the first 20 minutes, in my opinion. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. And then Owen Paddy came on. He didn't have highlights, but if you go and watch him closely, he made some two really good kick chases that were massive efforts to one-on-one tackle RTS. They've got a good pairing there in those two nines. And again, the thing that they've been missing since Hodgson was the creativity around the ruck. Maybe Starling padding is that combo.
They look good, didn't they?
Mm.
And I think with Owen Paddy, we've seen, whether you've watched games with him, highlights, the preseason challenge, whatever it might be, there'll be points in him.
Mm.
He's got the attack, he's got the creativity around the ruck, and an excellent attacking player. And he'll be good defensively too, but the reality is, is he 18, 19, something like that?
Yep.
He's young, 21 tackles, missed one on
Yep.
his debut in Vegas on a fast track against a big Warriors pack. That was the best thing for me. You said there a few key kick chases as well that were awesome. It just changes our team so much. If he can, expand his game and evolve his game early enough and be a regular and hold this spot, just having that 9 rotation of, Starlo having a bit of a break, coming back on. I think, did Starlo play a bit of lock at the time as
Yeah, he
well? I
came
think
on
with
as
Paddy.
lock.
Yeah. So it just makes our middle look so different.
Yeah, way different. What do you reckon, Roo?
I was at the Raiders training this week, and I was talking to some of the staff on the side, and they said, Owen Paddy making his debut, blah, blah, and they said, like his kicking game is his best asset.
Wow.
And once they said that, I watched him just when he was out there having a kick. Mate, I reckon he hit about 8 40-20s in a row.
Wow.
It was just in training and stuff, but he's got a really nice boot. I think it's something that even I've been talking about him for fucking ages till the cows come home. But I think even I've underappreciated how good his kicking game is. I think he's going to be dynamic for the Raiders.
I was speaking to a few of them as well, and they mentioned that, like, how good his kicking game is and the 40-20 ability he's got. And okay, so from dummy half, is about God, big week. Sorry, boys. Is it the ones that bend around, fold out onto the sideline? He goes, they said, nah, they're bullets, like dead straight arrows. And he said they're unreal at them.
Yeah.
No way.
When they come off his boot, they look like they're going to go out on the full, and they just dip at the right moment each time. I think the Raiders have found themselves in a very, very good spot heading into the future. You got your halves sorted. Sanders is still in the squad as well. So I really like the look of the Raiders. I'll tell you what I loved last night, boys. And there's the elevators at Allegiant Stadium that take you up to the media section. I just happened to be in the same elevator as Webby, and I thought, Ricky Stewart must be going to the other one. I love that he coached on the sideline in Las Vegas.
That's so good.
Unreal.
So
I think
good.
it was, and you could literally see him at half, after each try, he was standing at kickoffs, barking orders. Guys were yelling back at him. I thought it was fantastic. It was he had a team that was up in the box, and he was radioing down to them. And I think if you've got the right team around you that you can trust as a coach, I think that's where I'd want to be.
It's good to get a feel, to just feel the contact, feel the momentum swings. Now, speaking of contact, Hudson Young, what a game! He is just, because he's down at the Raiders, he just doesn't get the appreciation. This guy is one of the best back rowers nearly every single weekend. Nearly every weekend, he's one of the best back rowers in the entire NRL. Very, very rarely does he have a bad game. Very rarely is he not one of the best forwards on the ground. And you saw, as soon as the whistle went, he let out a huge roar. You could tell that, although, look, the wrestle meant absolutely nothing. It was not a big deal, but it was made to be a big deal, and you could tell it meant a lot to him.
Yeah, he was the one that looked the most charged up, didn't he? He let out a big roar, and so did, it's another guy. The whole team was through the game. I saw Joe Tarpon a couple of times, some big defensive plays there. They were right into it. I think it really probably, even though it was a non-issue, I think it actually did bring the team together a little bit.
Well, Ricky loves that.
Absolutely.
He almost would be saying, thanks, boys. You
Exactly.
give me a reason to chip on the shoulder. In the post-match press conference, he's already talking about, if we come last, it's going to be a pretty good comp. So he's already, you can tell he's read the media and he's already got that. And I mean, that's what he does best. He uses these stories to galvanize the boys and to get them going. I will say, it was interesting seeing Tarpanair go and hit Barnett the way he did. Yes, he did get 10 in the bin, so it ended up being silly. But I don't think Tarpanair gets enough credit. He's a dog. You don't see Tarpanair as a guy that gets amongst it a lot, but he actually gets amongst it all the fucking time. Yeah. Well, for example, you look at a guy like Fisher Harris or Leota, they're seen as aggressive standover men. Whereas Tarpanair, he always mixes it with teams, but it's because he's down in Canberra that you don't actually hear about it as much.
Didn't he floor him as well? He was down for a long time, Mitchie Barnett, and he's a big boy.
Tarpanair didn't pick, a rookie forward to hit or whatever. He picked out Barnett and said, and granted, I know he got 10 in the bin, so it ended up being a silly decision, but very rarely do you find, tell me the last time you saw Barnett get targeted by another front rower. That's what the point I'm trying to make is that Tarpon is a dog. He loves that stuff. He always gets involved in that kind of push and shove and back and forth with the other front rower. Now, granted, Barnett got back up eventually. He went back at it, so no knock on Barnett at all. Just more my point that He just flies under the radar type in air, but he loves
Yeah.
that shit.
He's gun.
I thought some other forwards that were good boys. Obviously, he was part of what happened during the week. Morgan Smithy's off the bench. He ended up playing about 60 minutes.
He was dropping blokes off. I was
Yeah.
like, where did that come from? Ball playing.
Mate, it's so interesting. He came from England last year. I remember we had this conversation about Supercoach, and I watched some highlights, and I just went, mate, he's just up and down. There's just nothing else to him, and that's how he played. But speaking to guys that played with him in England, they all went, no, he's a ball player. Like, he's got a lot to his game. But and I watched last year and went, what are you blokes talking about? Like, the other one I thought, your mate, Zach Hosking, I thought he was brilliant as well.
Huge.
That pass that he threw to Timoko, it was.
Yeah.
That was a lovely little pill there. He was good
He
too,
was
Timoko.
like we've spoken about him for years. Obviously, impressed with the Broncos, impressed with the Panthers, but had so many gun players in front of him. But just injuries have held him back. Isn't he class? Like the first few games to start last season for the Raiders, he was unreal.
He made 44 tackles, 0 misses on an edge.
Yeah.
In 66 minutes.
So
Didn't play the 80.
How exciting now are those edges of Zach Hosking? If he can just keep himself fit and stay on the field, him and Hutto Young, there's a lot of points in. They said that pass, oof.
It was his birthday during the week too. Shout out to him.
Shout out. So between them, 85 tackles and only 3 misses. Like that bloody on an edge. Like that's not even the middle where you've got small spaces between you and the next member side.
Where did he finish in Roasty's Hot 100 top 10?
Hosking.
Turn it up.
Is he top
You
5?
wish, mate.
He was
Like,
just
give me a
behind Phoenix
break.
Crossland at 1,002.
And just a quick shout out before we move on, and a shout out to Morgan Smithies because the question we're heading into this year is we need more from him. Like we love him, he represents what rugby league's all about, but we just need a bit more spark from him.
He needed another string to his bow. As
Yeah.
Guru said last year, was just up and down. Like, has he got an offload? Has he got ball playing? And I didn't think he did, to be honest. Just to see him do a bit more ball playing off the bench and that, it goes, all right, there's more to this bloke than just being an up and down player.
Well, 14 runs, 125 metres, 60 post contact, and boys, so you'll love this, 1 offload. Stop it. And the tackle break.
Are you
Holy.
reading career stats or Vegas stats? Boys, I know we sort of mentioned him earlier as well, but Corey Horsburgh.
Yeah,
my
he's
God,
great.
he looks ready to go.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I know Ricky Stewart said a few weeks ago that he thinks he'll get back into the State of Origin arena. I can see it. He was great last night.
How fit does he look?
Yeah.
Yep. And it just that push and pull that Ricky does so well, where like one week they hate each other, the next week they love each other. It just seems to work with Big Red because he looks like he's in Origin form again. He looks like he's ready to go.
When he came off the field last night, he went to the sideline. I reckon him and Ricky just stood there and spoke for about 5 minutes, just pointing at
The
things.
best.
Like every other player, high five, Ricky sat down. Those two sat together. It was like he was talking to his halfback.
That's
It
so
was
good.
incredible.
And just quickly before we move on, I want to give a shout out to the old war dog, Papali.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there was people trying to ask him about retirement, and earlier this year he's like, mate, I'm not retiring. I'm still good to go. Jeez, just in that first 20 minutes especially, when you need just an old war veteran to get through his work and do his job, he did it perfectly.
He does his job, but there's venom in it. There's still venom in every tackle. Like, he's one of the bigger hitters we've seen in the NRL. He probably doesn't have the big highlight reel hits. There's still a few of them, but
Remember him on the edge? He used to absolutely
wild
annihilate
blokes. But there is so much sting and so much vigor in every one of his tackles. He was great to start the game, wasn't he?
So, look, great performance by the Raiders, and it's 30 points that I just find super interesting. What a debut from Tamale, just quickly. Like, kind of, his debut, wasn't it?
Nah, he played one game for the Dragons last year.
Okay,
yeah.
but what a club debut anyway.
Yeah.
If it was like to run for 200 plus meters, have 2 line breaks, have some big moments. Just want to give him a shout out because he's a rookie.
Mate, he's a really underrated signing from the Dragons. He New South Wales Cup last year. He played centre, wing, fullback. He can do it all.
Yeah, wow.
Very talented.
Yeah, so and like for him to, to come out club debut as a young fella, and these are his stats: 16 runs, 216 meters, 90 post contact, 7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, an offload, 3 tackles, 0 misses. That's a bloody good knock for a young winger for sure. Bloody good knock. Oh, and our boy, your centers, Chris and Timoko. I mean, we haven't even spoken about them. Chris scored bloody 2 tries. Timoko looking like he's back at his best. A bit quiet last year.
He can't, I think Physio was talking about it, and he had injuries all of last year and obviously looks fit and fine, but he was underdone all last season.
Yeah.
And I think that showed last night that,
Now on to the Warriors. Oh, man. Just, to be honest, looked disjointed. lacked leadership. And I don't mean leadership in regards to like captaincy. I mean like directing them around the park. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a real big learning curve for Luke Metcalf. The bright lights hit. He had such good trials. And sometimes you can have these really good trials and almost just expect things that are just going to fall into place for you again because you did in the trials. Unfortunately, I just felt like he let the game get away from him. He did try to bring himself back into it towards, the back end of the first half. And the second half, he was a little bit better. But, like, for the first 20 minutes, like, Chanel Harris-Tavita was doing all the kicking and that. And you're just going, surely that's not the plan. Like, and if it is, I apologise. And then I've got my disagreement will be with Webby and the decision of Harris-Tavita being the one to kick. And so in times like that, if you Luke Metcalf, and I hope Webby's Andrew Webster is telling him this, but he has the added benefit that most halves don't have of a crazy running game. And so I just reckon if you're Webster, you're saying to him, bro, if you feel like the game is getting a little bit away from you, get the ball in your hands and just start running it. Matter of fact, you're more important than any player on the field in regards to needing you to get into the game. And so, like, don't be worried about telling Fish or Barnett or any of Capewell or any of those forwards to get out of the way and give you the ball and just start running it, even if you have to have 5 runs to get yourself in the game. Because I just felt like he let the game get away from him, and then by the time he tried to really the game's a bit away, it was a bit too late in my opinion. So I think he's so talented, Luke Metcalf. I think he'll learn a lot from it. I think he'll bounce back from it, but he definitely if you've got the 7 on your back, you can no longer afford to be the 6 that just chimes in when the game is going well for you. You have to get the ball early and put your stamp on the game, in my opinion.
Completely agree. I think it was very evident the game just got away from him early, and then before he knew it, he was in quicksand.
Oh.
There was just no way for him to get out of it.
I felt sorry for him towards the end.
I felt so bad for him. And it's hard, when you're stepping into the shoes of Sean Johnson, one of the better halfbacks we've seen. You have to go to New Zealand. You're without AFB. It's just there was a lot of things going against Metcalf there. But to your point, mate, he just had to put the ball under the wing and just go early. Yeah,
just start taking hit-ups. Yeah. Seriously, I know it sounds like really simple, but genuinely. Fogarty doesn't have that luxury. Fogarty can't just go, all right, I'll start running the ball because he's not a running half. So he's actually going to be detrimental to his side. Metcalf has the running ability of a winger and a fullback. So just get the ball, mate, and start hitting him behind the markers. Before you know it, quick play, the balls will start happening. You're in the game. He just waited a little bit too long.
Yeah, I just don't think they had the right game plan going in. As I said, smaller field. They were just too side to side.
So impatient.
And they knew what the Raiders were going to do, and they'll play down the middle, and it just played right in the Raiders' hands. And side to side in round 1, let alone on a field that is smaller, they were clunky. And my fear with them is that I was a bit surprised that Harris-Tavita did play. I think Harris-Tavita is a really good 14. I know they've got Aaron Clark who can sort of play that role now as well. Dylan Walker does it as well, and they can cover some positions. But I was surprised they didn't go with Tamari Martin. And we know Tanner Boyd's another one who's there who I think he's under an injury cloud. So whatever they do for the next 4, 5, 6, I don't want it to be a Newcastle situation where they chop and change for the first 8 to 10 to 12 weeks. Give whatever partnership it is you go with or settle on by round 3 or 4, or whether it is this one, give it time to blossom and work, because new combinations take time. They don't happen overnight, especially when there's other positional changes as well. I think stick by them. Give him a chance because it's round 1, but very clunky.
Yeah, super clunky. And the fact that Harris-Tavita had the same amount of kicks as Metcalf, and it's just we know Harris-Tavita is not a kicker. He's a 6/utility. If I'm being honest, I was a bit surprised they didn't just start with Aaron Clark at 13, Harris-Tavita at 14, Tamari Martin at 6. I feel like if you're going to go with a half of Metcalf, who is a ball runner, you've got to have someone in the halves that's silky. And I just don't know if Harris-Tavita, he's also a ball runner. He's almost he's not that big, but he plays like a big Jack Whiten almost to a degree. And so I think that if you've got Metcalf, you have to have Tamari Martin to have the soft hands, because he is the one with the soft hands.
I was so surprised they didn't go Tamari Martin.
Yeah, me too. I was also surprised I'm pretty sure they started with Ford at 13 and not Aaron Clark. And maybe they were trying to combat Tarpanair, Papali'i, and Horsburgh's size potentially. But Aaron Clark, the way you combat size is not by putting someone that's a bit bigger but smaller than the opposition. It's a guy like Aaron Clark that's smaller but heaps of leg speed and can roll the ruck. I just think some of the selections were quite surprising. I was really surprised Laban wasn't a part of the squad. That was bizarre to me.
Well, you add in there, like, they had Halasima was there. I think he played mid-20 minutes sort of thing. Halasima and Vormega. Halasima didn't come on until about the 54th minute. You know, when they were sort of losing the battle through the middle early on, you've got these two beasts on the bench who look really good in trials, can play across middle end edge. Neither of them played the first half. Get them on, get a few minutes into them. It's always a bit of a gripe of mine, but especially in round one, they only used 7 interchanges as well. Like, round one, the speed of the play, like that fast synthetic turf, whatever it's called, those boys were gassed out there. Like, why are you using up your full bench?
Yeah, I think as well. I thought it was. I think Barnett only played 51 minutes. I thought he would have got a lot more than that.
Yeah, there was
It's
quite
hard
a
to
few.
work out what the plan was there.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at it now. I got to say, geez, Chance put himself under some pressure at that fullback role. Like, when you've got a guy like RTS in this side, and granted, I'm pro Chance because of his ball playing, but you just even have a bit of a bad game if you've got RTS on the wing. Just the pressure mounts so much, especially with how well RTS played. RTS was easily the Warriors' best, in my opinion.
Tuapiki named on the other wing as well.
No, I was just about to say, from what I've gathered, I don't think RTS is next man at fullback. I think it's Tuapiki if they do.
Well, I mean, if you've got Tuapiki and RTS putting pressure on you, you can't really afford to be having 14 runs, 89 meters. Like, you've got to be up at around the 150 meter mark. 14 runs, 89 meters, 36 post contact, couple offloads, but he had a couple of errors as well. And just with Chance, like, that was his whole. That was the question heading into this year: is what version of Chance are we going to get? Is he a little bit banged up? Is his injury sweet? Unfortunately, love Chance, but just wasn't his best night.
It was off. And you mentioned RTS there on the wing. Love the move to the wing.
Loved it.
He just gives him a bit of space to run around in. He'll be we saw him finish one try nicely. Aerially, I think he'll get more opportunities as well. I think it's perfect. Now, just let him roam around a little bit. He did stay on the wing. Let him go out and play as a second fullback, just in support, in around the ruck. But I think that was a big plus on what was a tough night for the Warriors.
I will say, a little bit surprised that they had Metcalf, Latawa, and Tuapiki all on one edge for a round one game in Vegas. I just don't know whether that's a smart idea when you've got Pompey, Chanel Harris, Stavitas, and RTS on the other side. So you've got all your experience on the left side, a bunch of rookies on the right side. Tuapiki, not necessarily a winger, he's just there because he's a bloody good player. Then you got Latawa, who was 5-6 games into his NRL career, and then you got Metcalf playing 7 for the first time, essentially. Like, I know he's played a bit of 6, but they're different positions, so there's added pressure. And even at times, I saw Metcalf being moved to centre. I don't like that. Like, if you are a 7, you should be able to defend at 7. And granted, maybe they've worked on it all in the off season, so that's the way it's going to be. But I was a little bit surprised at so much inexperience together on that one edge, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I've spoken a lot about the Raiders and their ball movement and that. The Raiders were stripping them and going through their edges untouched far too often. I'm with you, Kempy. Like, that whole edge being so inexperienced was a bit of a question mark, but both edges were getting torn to pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking here in regards to, like, some of these, like, I know some of these are like 6 runs for 40 meters, like 8 runs for 80 meters, some of these forwards. And granted, like, I know that the Raiders had a lot of possession early on, but in the end, it ended up with 51 to 49% possession. So it's not like the whole game was a 60 to 70% possession to Raiders. Just a really disappointing week for the Warriors because, they had such a big build-up. I thought Fish did as much as he could. Like, I know a lot of... Look, in the preview, we spoke about this quite a lot, but don't expect Fish to be like Adam Fanua-Blake. He wasn't brought to the club to be that. He isn't that type of player. He is a bloody high standard player, but it's everything that he's going to be building off the field that is really important. But I thought he did as much as he could. I don't think he played poorly.
I thought the moment that sort of summed up the Warriors was the Tom Starling line break at a dummy half. He darts out, and I think it was Wade Egan who was at first marker. I think it was Nair Corday who was the A defender, and you had Jackson Ford who was getting back in line. He had his back turned, and there was just no communication between them. He just went straight through, untouched. shouldn't really see that at this level realistically.
And early in the game too, what, it's about the 20th minute there
Yeah,
or so.
and like with all due respect to him, like it's not Harry Grant. Like it's he's a good ball runner, but that was just a lack of communication in that moment.
Yeah. And so the worry I have with the Warriors is that like the noise will start quickly if they don't right this ship very quickly. Because if they go, 0-3, the pressure, the headlines, and the problem is that I'm still, although Metcalf had a great preseason trial, I'm still not convinced their spine, as it stands, can get them into the top 8. And so they all need to be playing to the best of their ability, in my opinion, to get them into the top 8. And unfortunately, Metcalf was quiet, Chance was quiet, Harris Tavita tried his hardest, but it just didn't seem to click for him. And Egan, he needs support. He needs support. What do you reckon, boys, with the spine?
Yeah, I just think in general can be like you can be very critical of it because they were very ordinary, the Warriors. But it's round 1. They're playing in Vegas. There was a lot of hype. I think the moment probably got to them a bit too much, the bright lights. If I'm Webby, I'm just saying, boys, put a line through it. Forget about it. Let's move on to round 2 in a couple of weeks' time. The beauty of it is now they've got 2 weeks to prep for it and get these combinations and get a bit more time under the belt on
Just
the
get
training
direct. Get direct.
I think they'll sit there and go, we made some wrong decisions that are easy to rectify. The big one being just play more direct, which will bring Metcalf and his running game into it way more as well. But let's just move on to round 2. Don't worry about round 1. Being done, move on.
Yeah. Now, look, I totally agree. It is round 1, but we can only kind of judge what we saw. They've just got to straighten everything up. They've got to get the ball and just tuck it under your arm and stop trying to force that edge-to-edge kind of play because, unfortunately, like no one there is Sean Johnson. And they're so used to having Sean Johnson there that can square things up and give them that extra space on the edge. But that's just not their strengths at the moment. So I think they need to just lean a little bit more into their strengths. As I said, I think Metcalf will learn a lot. I think you'll see both of their halves early in the game in round 2 for them get the ball under their wing and just start getting in behind the ruck and just play, to be honest, play a similar game to the Raiders. Really just simple, through the middle, and allow the space to be created via your quick play of the balls rather than trying to spin it.
Just on Metcalf, I sat down with SJ this week and I was also doing one question. The first question I asked was, Luke Metcalf, like, what have you seen from him this offseason that makes you think he's going to make it as a halfback? I thought Sean's response was really interesting. The first thing he said was, mate, the thing I love the most about Metcalf is that he comes and he asks questions. He asks too many questions, if anything, and he's just so ready to try and learn and just a sponge. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how the interaction between him and Sean after that game, because I'm sure Sean would have been almost pulling his hair out during that game, realistically. And I can't wait to see how Luke Metcalf comes back from it.
Yeah, only round 1. Such a long season, guys. Like, you think about round 1 last year and how different the team was by the end of it in regards to performances. I think Metcalf will learn a lot for it, and we have to also appreciate he hasn't played 7 that much. Like, it's not as easy as like a lot of people just go, oh yeah, he's a really good 6. Just chuck him in at 7, he'll be right. It's not that simple. It takes time to learn to be a leader on the park and direct and tell forwards, get the rug over there and give me the ball here and do this here. Take a little bit of time. I think they'll learn a lot from it. It's only round 1. The question though I have is that they do need to all be playing their best, I guess, form-wise to make the 8, and that's going to be the biggest question. How do we get all of our spine in career best form to push us into the 8? It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Tuapiki and Chance, though, because that will just get louder and louder if Chance doesn't step up and play the way we know Chance can play. But I thought Tuapiki tried his hardest as well. I thought he did his best on the wing there.
The beauty is they have options.
Yeah.
They've got 3 terrific options at fullback. If this halves pairing doesn't work, they've got Tamayo Martin, they've got Tanner Boyd. They do have options if blokes are out of form or not pulling their weight.
Yeah, but round 1, guys, I think they'll all learn a lot from it. It's such a big. Also, I think the Warriors have that added pressure of they're just such a well followed team, and they had so many fans over here. it is a unique experience as a Warriors player. Like a lot of pressure. So I think they'll learn a lot from it.
Yeah, and I know I already mentioned, but on top of that, like I think the Warriors probably did the best of all the clubs this week with their fans and everything. Like they just went absolutely above and beyond. The charter flight from New Zealand straight to Las Vegas.
Who knows? Maybe they did too much. You know,
Mate, honestly, I think that might be something they'll look at.
Because like that's always the like when people talk about grand finals, they always usually talk about the week before the grand final where they go, yeah, maybe we did a little bit too much media or we did too much stuff with the fans or we didn't focus enough on the game. So we'll see. But round one, early days, guys, it's definitely not doom and gloom. Not at all. Metcalf is super talented. I think he'll learn a lot. I think he'll bounce back quite quickly. But yeah, our KO can't miss player. He was Xavier Savage. Guys, you cannot miss Xavier Savage when he plays rugby league at that kind of standard. He was absolutely outstanding. And in regards to KO, the Fox League coverage, that was top notch. You can watch every game. No ad breaks in play on Sunday was exceptional. And the next week, you can watch every single rugby league game on KO. Do not miss. And don't forget, you can also watch boxing as well. Got huge cards coming up on No Limit on KO, and all the pay-per-view and main event is on KO as well. All right, let's get into the next game, boys. Panthers v Sharks. I tell you who needs a good day. Both sides need a good day because they would be sore as anything from that game. That was a pretty high standard for a round one game. I thought that was an outstanding clash. Head to begoodhealth.com.au, grab your good day, a brilliant multivitamin. I brought mine over to Vegas. I've been having mine each day. And also, grab Life by the Balls, grab some bloke undies, premium, high-quality undies, guys. Trust me, give them a try. You will not be disappointed. Guarantee you will like bloke undies. Head to bloke.shop. All right, let's get into it. Panthers defeat the Sharks in a close encounter. And I think, look, I don't know what the Panthers preseason is like, but watching on the weekend, I feel like I've finally got it figured out. And I'm just making a guess here. But I reckon they spend 80% of their preseason just on defense. And that's why they look so clunky at the start of every year. And I reckon Ivan Cleary goes into each year and goes, we'll just build the whole season on defense. We'll use the year to slowly tweak our attack so that by the time we hit grand final, our attack is humming. Because their defense for round one, how physically dominant they were, especially in that first 20 or so. Like the Sharks actually it was a miracle that they actually were the ones to score first because they were kicking the ball out in the full. They had errors. They were getting locked in their own half. They were only making 10 meters. The Penrith's physical conditioning at this stage so early in the year that, yes, they did look a little bit clunky, but they looked super, super fit. Now, on the flip side, you want the bad news or the good news with the Sharks? The bad news is this. They're still not ready to win a grand final right now. The good news is it's the closest they've ever been to being ready to win a grand final in round one, in my opinion. It's just these tiny little moments, like a drop off a kick, like dropping the ball off a kickoff, kicking the ball out in the full. They just clean that up. This is the best the Sharkies have looked in round one, in my opinion, in a very, very long time. I thought both teams walked away. Yes, Sharks didn't get the win on the board, but I think they got a win off the board. That's the best they've looked in a very long time. Both teams looked outstanding, in my opinion. What do you reckon, Roo?
Yeah, I thought Penrith, I tipped the Sharkies to win because I thought, Penrith, they start slow. They haven't played a trial. Mate, at the 30th minute mark, I'm sitting there going, you genius. This looks like a team that hasn't played a trial. And then it's like Nath, he got the ball on, I think it was third or fourth tackle. He put in that early quick kick. It was a 40-20. And I felt like that just blew the cobwebs out. I went, okay, let's get into Penrith footy again. I thought on that set, I was like, as that set was happening, I thought, geez, they look different without Toto coming out of their own end. Like they just weren't getting him anywhere. And Nath came from a blind spot, got that ball, put the kick in, and the game was over from there.
Oh man, I want that kick. So coming from soccer, it's always been really interesting to see how rugby league players kick the ball, and it's always like very straight on. So like you're either like chipping straight over with the edge of the ball landing on your foot, or if you're trying to do a banana kick, you're placing the ball and kicking. It's always like very straight on. What is beautiful, if you watch closely with that kick with Cleary, he uses another part of his foot to get the right angle to land exactly where he does it. So he runs from the other side of the field, sweeps around late, and he actually lands the ball here, which is really interesting to me as a soccer player because that's, you use all parts of your foot as a soccer player. And if you actually watch the flight of the ball, it's not like end over end. It's actually a bit wobbly, but he's intentionally kicking the ball from the inside of his foot to get the right angle so it lands. It doesn't hit the ground before his tongue that landed there. Yeah. Like that is pinpoint. When you start using, we always all agree like Joey almost changed kicking to a degree with the banana kick. But even Joey was still using, usually, like, I don't get me wrong, I'm sure you can find kicks where he didn't, but usually he's using the middle of his foot. Cleary is getting so good at kicking now. He's beginning to use like the inside, the outside, the middle. And if you go and watch that closely, he dinks it. He needs to do that because if he does kick it with the flat part of his foot here, he would have to banana shape the ball and it would be going end over end that way and it would be moving away from Tungor. Just the delicate touch to land that kick the way he did was absolutely incredible.
And just to add another level to it, we're talking about two different kicks. I was talking about the 40-20
Oh, well,
kick.
there you go.
And I was getting to that. But like even that 40-20 kick, he came from the right-hand side. He's a right footer kicking from the left-hand side, all jammed up on third tackle. Just incredible. And then 2 sets later, or whatever it was, he puts in that kick. Like I was saying to Tim this morning, that kick that you're talking about, that was Joey and Freddie shit.
Yeah.
Down to a T. Like it was only those guys that did stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and the way he kicked, the land, where he landed on his boot, I can't express to you enough. He has to land it there because otherwise it'll either go too far or go too high. He has landed it perfectly, so Tungor gets there right at the right time. That's when we talk about when you go, Cleary hasn't even reached his peak yet. Like he's getting to the point where he is now using different parts and create not creating his own style because obviously the ball has been kicked like that before, but it's like when you watch a soccer player juggling a soccer ball, you can tell that it's almost like a second part of it's like second nature to them. They can feel the ball on their foot, and that's where Cleary's getting in his kicking game. It's incredible.
That just must have been so deflating for the Sharks because they sit there defending their line. I know Yo went over the set before. I think it was about 28 minutes in. And they go, all right, get through the set, looking okay. Cleary puts that in for Tungo. There is zero they
Can't do
could do
anything.
about that defense. You just sit back and go, okay, like that's perfection, and you can't defend it.
Yeah, and that angle of the kick is so pinpoint and precise. Like we're talking, if that landed 3 centimeters a bit to the right on his foot, it goes somewhere else. It's too long, it's too short. And then to top it all off, he's on the sideline. Someone throws something at him on the ground. He goes like this, doesn't reset anything, and then kicks it from the sideline. It's just amazing.
On top of that as well, like those two kicks we're talking about, if you watch the play, he comes from a blind spot on both of them.
Yeah.
So I had people mention me last night, geez, Will Kennedy out of position. I go, fuck, was he that far out of position? Like when you watch Nath on both those plays, he comes from directly behind the ruck in a split second. Like I'd love to know, they must have just had an instant call with Isaac Tungo on that play because that just happened in a flash.
In a flash, yeah. It didn't look premeditated, but it was so accurate. It looked premeditated. And in regards to Will Kennedy, he has 3 options. He has left, right, or obviously middle. Usually, you stay on the long side, or if you've got a dominant kicker, you just follow them. So you're either a meter behind them or a meter in front of them. What do you want him to do there? He tried as hard as he could to chase Cleary across. The problem is, if let's say you go, oh, you want him to be a meter in front of Cleary, well, then what if Cleary goes an inside ball or an inside kick? Or they'd go short side. Then he's way out of the line. And so, yeah, as I said, I think both teams, yes, you can, if you're a Sharkies fan, you can go look at, drop ball and then kicking out in the full and mistakes. But, tell me the last time you saw a Sharkie side really push Penrith all the way to the end. Not this current crop hasn't. I think the Sharkies look the best they've ever looked in round 1. Not ever, but in this recent memory.
Yeah, I thought in the first 30 minutes or so, I thought Penrith looked very un-Penrith, and I don't know, it's sort of alarmed me a little bit the Sharkies weren't able to take advantage of it. And as you said, Camby, they are little things to change, but it's just those unforced errors in the first 30 minutes. I look at the Sharkies, and my whole question this year is, can they beat Penrith and Melbourne? That's my big concern. I know they can beat the living crap out of everyone else. I already know that. I just thought last night was a really good opportunity in Vegas to arrive, kick the door in and go, yeah, no, we're the Sharkies. We're here this year. Kicks out on the full, missing, not finding touch, dropping the ball off the kickoff. I was a little bit disappointed with the Sharkies. Maybe I hold them at too much of a high standard, but I probably expected a little bit more out of them last night.
One way to look at it, though, Roo, is that there were some, rookie under-10s mistakes they made that you just mentioned, and they still lost to them by 6 points.
Oh, for sure, but, this is what the Sharks do, though. This isn't the first time that's happened. That's my only concern, We go back to the trial a few weeks ago against the Raiders. They got pinned 5 times in the first half for not playing the ball properly.
Yeah.
Just those little things that if you do it, I think if they played Melbourne last night, they would have found themselves in a bit of trouble.
See, if I'm a Sharkies fan, 6 points with the game on the line, and there was definitely a contentious call right at the end there, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with it. 6 points to the defending premiers. That I felt that yes, they looked clunky in attack, but I thought that the Penrith's defense looked friggin' phenomenal. Like their line speed was hectic. The fact that they were only 6 points behind and the Sharkies didn't play anywhere near as good as they could have, I actually think it's a good sign.
You say clunky in attack though can be early on, first 20, 25 minutes. Seriously, for a team that didn't play a try, obviously they would have had in-house hit-outs and all that sort of stuff, but some of the tries they scored, like I think it was the Dane Laurie's first one, they had four lead runners in that, just played out the back, out the back. It was like perfection. When you add in that Jack Cole got thrown in at 5'8", we thought it was probably going to be Blaze Talangi, it went to Jack Cole. They had Luke Garner playing centre. They had McLean go off early injured and Laurie went on the wing. And then there was the Alamotti try as well. I think it was all pretty typical like block plays out the back again. But the timing of all of the runs was perfect. So I actually thought for a side, that with new faces in there, new combinations, especially the 5'8", I thought their attack was humming once it clicked into gear.
Yeah, when I say clunky, I mean started clunky. Okay. It definitely, you could, Cleary found his touch. The Panthers found their touch. I will say, and again, that's why I say right now, are the Sharks ready to win a grand final right now? No, they're not, but they're the closest they've been in a round one game, in my opinion. And one area where 16 minutes to go, the Sharks have repeat sets on the Panthers line. The game is in the balance, and they knock the ball on. And I'm like, that's how far they are away from being ready for a grand final, is like that moment right there. Then, ironically, they somehow hang in the game, and Adam Fanua-Blake scored that try. And I say, that's what he was bought for, is like moments like that to just carry them back into the game. And so if they can just sort out those errors, and, I think Mulatalo had a bit of a brain explosion as well, just those little moments, they can challenge the best teams in the competition, in my opinion. It's just a matter of, and look, it's round one. We're so early in the season. I think they can. I know they lost, but I'm pretty happy with them where they're at right now. What do you reckon, Hammy?
No, I think their best footy is going to be good enough to challenge, but I probably do agree with Rue in, we spoke about the kickoff that went out on the full. They had the opportunity to wrestle back a bit of momentum early in the game and get up Penrith's end. They got a penalty and they didn't kick it out. Like, there's just a few little basics like that, which, if you're a top 4 team, which I still think they are, if you want to challenge those good teams, like that sort of stuff's probably not quite good enough. But look, if and when they iron that out, if you have a look at some of the team stats here, it was 50-50 possession. Both teams shared and their tackle efficiency was actually 3% higher than Penrith's. They had a couple of little moments where they let them in, but if you look at the body of work as a whole, they've got a lot of the good ingredients. Their defense is rock solid as well. I think they're going to be still right up there towards the pointy end of the.
Thoughts on this statement? They're the best they've looked in round one since Fitzy took over. Yes or no? I think they look the best they've looked in round one since Fitzy took over.
Yeah, well, I think they were going to win. I tipped them to win that game, but to have a couple of basic errors like that and only lose to the 4-time premiers in round one by 6 points is not too bad either.
Timmy?
Yeah, I don't remember their round one games in recent years, but they, as you said, the best position they are to win a comp. 100% they do.
What do you reckon, Rude?
Oh, yes, for sure, mate. I think 1-17, it's close to the best squad in the NRL. They might not have the superstars in certain spots, but I think 1-17, it is one of the better squads in the comp. And I think that's why I hold them to a standard where, I'm going to put them in the same conversation as Melbourne and Penrith. And if Melbourne or Penrith came out and made all those unforced errors, there was another play in the game where they had a scrum, they got an opportunity, threw out at Jesse Raymond, he dropped it cold. They were lucky though, they got a penalty for offside in it. I just thought there was a lot of moments there that if Penrith were on the entire game, I think they could have made life very hard for them in the first 30 minutes. Because the one thing that Penrith does, and Melbourne does too, they make you pay for your errors. They didn't make the Sharks pay for their errors in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, see, I'm willing to, even though I agree that those errors are the difference between them being ready to win a premiership and not, I'm lenient because it's round one. I'm okay with them being a bit messy and a bit, I'm happy with the Sharkies.
And you know what? I'd be more leaning to your side if it was new combinations. You could have picked that team 6 months ago. You know what I mean? I'm looking at the Warriors and I'm happy to be a little bit lenient with them. New halfback, new combinations. I don't know. I just thought the Sharkies, some games mean more to teams than others, and I thought this game would have meant more to the Sharkies on a big stage, arriving with the Panthers with a point to prove there.
Yeah, fair enough. Let us know in the comment section. Do you reckon, are you happy with the performance, or you think it was actually a not good enough performance for where you would think the Sharkies should be? All right, let's get into in regards to, let's talk about the Penrith Panthers. As I said, the physicality of them, I couldn't believe, Liam Martin, Jesus, he might that might be the best round one game I've seen from him because he was absolutely on fire, Liam Martin. So aggressive, so ready to go. And it's just a testament to this Penrith whole setup, the club from CEO all the way down to the players. The fact that they're coming out with this kind of motivation after 4 premiers, it's nothing short of incredible.
That rundown when he chased down Will Kennedy, with like 7 to go in the game, line was split, a potential match winner. He still had to get past Dylan Edwards, so far from locked in, but could have been a match winner. 74, 73 minutes into the first game of the season in Vegas after what would have been a pretty draining week for them, I'd imagine. For Liam Martin to be running him down a fullback, that was a brilliant tackle.
Yeah.
Isn't
All hard.
Liam Martin? We've said it for years, but if you want to base your opinion on him off fantasy Supercoach stats, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
He is just an absolute mongrel, and every team would love to have a Liam Martin. It doesn't shock me the team that's gone 4 in a row has Liam Martin at all.
I'm telling you, 2 or 3 years ago, I reckon there was a lot of coaches in the NRL that would have put him on the bench and probably put Sorensen to start because, like, just purely on the eye test of like big moments and line breaks, like Sorensen would have them all the time. But the amount of times I'm clear is like, nah, like Liam Martin's my guy. I'm locking him into that edge, and that's why. That's really honestly why.
Clive Churchill-Mendes says
Crazy.
it all.
I thought I want to talk about Alamotti's story. This guy couldn't get a bloody club a year and a half ago. He couldn't get a club. We're talking about an 18-year-old that was the next big thing, was at the Dogs. No one's interested in picking him up. And maybe there's more to the story in regards to like maybe he's asking too much. I don't know. Maybe they were waiting out for the perfect club. But to my understanding, he was struggling to find somewhere. Goes to the Panthers and like he's starting to fulfill the potential that we all saw. Incredible.
On top of that as well, he was touch and go to play yesterday.
Wow.
Like if you have a look when he scores that try, have a look at his left arm. It is taped up massively. Like he was, I think when they arrived in Vegas, they didn't expect him to play. But defensively, they had so many other guys out that I think he just sort of had to toughy up.
Mate, he is so his carries are so explosive and like just 19 runs, 198 meters, 60 post contact, a tackle break, a line break, and offload. Just a great story. Like a guy that was supposed to be the next big thing, doesn't work out, goes to the Panthers. We're hearing whispers that he might turn into a forward, finds himself in the center role. Obviously, still needed to work on some defensive reads. But so far, at least this year, I thought, unless maybe there's 1 or 2, I don't know. But defensively, he's just getting better and better and better.
Yeah, I thought as well without Brian obviously ruled out through injury, but still doing backflips at the Fan Fest. They needed somebody to take some tough carries from the back, and I thought Alamotti filled that really well. Obviously, McLean was starting on the other wing, but copped a head knock, unfortunately, early. So they had to kind of pivot, and Dane Laurie jumped out there. But, yeah, they had a few injury concerns, and I thought Alamotti, you almost couldn't tell that they'd been affected by injury.
And that's the other thing as well, like, we spoke about it all last year, that stat around teams that lose a player in an outside back in the first half, they always often lose. They lost an outside back in the first 3 minutes against the Sharkies.
And then you add on Alamotti that, he had his defensive issues certainly going into last year off the back of the Bulldogs pretty early in his career. We knew he was a devastating ball runner. It sort of fixed a lot of those last year at centre for Penrith. He played on the wing.
Yeah, I know.
One.
We're just seeing a system similar to the Melbourne Storm system where they can take a player and just squeeze the potential, all the best out of them. So Alamotti as well was outstanding. In regards to, I thought Tungor, just his ball running, he looks fit again. I feel like maybe last year he looked like he potentially was struggling with like some niggly injuries, but he looked like the Tungor that burst onto the scene and was just like punching way above his weight. I thought he looked quite good in contact.
I think with, another year where more guys leave, I think he'll be one guy that Ivan will go, okay, now I sort of need you to step up into a bit more of a leadership kind of role in this side. And mate, all signs early are that he's taken it on board.
Absolutely. The big question, arguably, or two of the biggest questions, Lindsay Smith. Outside of that one silly offload, I think, he's different to Fish, but geez, he does a bloody good job. He is a very, very unique front row because, like, you look at his body type and he looks like just a straight up and down kind of front row, old school, but he's actually not. He's actually got really good footwork. He's got a bit of a late offload. He always pokes his nose through, gets through his tackles. I mean, from his first huge shoes to fill, but I think it's a pass mark at the moment.
He played 60 minutes
Yeah.
as well.
Far
in the
out.
middle.
Pass mark for me.
He's pretty mobile. Like
Yeah.
he's an agile, as you said. Like he's an agile front rower.
He's all limbs.
All limbs.
What a luxury for them, though. They lose the Kiwi skipper, nips over to a different club, and you just replace him with a Australian Test front rower. And he looked fantastic.
He looked fantastic.
Nearly had a try as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Came very
And
close.
Lindsay Smith's the kind of guy that I do think a lot of systems, a lot of clubs would overlook a guy like him because he doesn't necessarily jump out at you as like oh shit, look at this physique and look. But at the Panthers, like he's so deceptively everything, deceptively strong, deceptively agile, deceptively fit. But yeah, so like huge shoes to fill. I was a pass mark for me. As I said, you're never going to be Fisher Harris, and I don't think he's trying to be Fisher Harris. He's trying to be his version of what he offers. But it was a pass mark for me.
Yeah.
I think we saw Sorensen moved into the middle. Papali'i goes on the edge, so it's looking like Sorensen will play that kind of third front rower. I will say, although Cole, a solid effort, they did miss Luai a little bit last night. Now, granted, they still won. They still looked great. But every time you just waited for that moment for something special to happen, where Luai was usually a part of it, they did miss that point of difference, in my opinion. And it's no knock on Cole, because Cole is not Luai, so he's not trying to be Luai. He is his own version. But I did feel like you watched that game and they looked like they were without... You could tell that he did leave a little bit of a hole, in my opinion, Luai.
I think the Cole selection was more of a defensive decision.
Yep.
From what I've gathered. So I think you will see Blaze in there eventually. I just think with the amount of outside backs they were missing, I think it was probably too much of a punt to put Blaze in there at the moment. So I think Cole probably played well enough to hold on to the jersey for now, though.
Definitely no knock on Cole. It was more just like that flair you're so used to seeing in a Penrith jersey whenever they get in that good ball. Just looked different.
And it'd be... Sorry, you go.
No, you go, mate.
I was going to say, I think it'd be a very easy job to be a foil to Nathan Cleary at the Penrith Panthers, but it'd be very hard to get used to it early on. Once you're in and you're settled into that role, it'd be fine. But I'm going to say Jack Cole it would have been a gun coming through the grades, like all the young hearts who debut in the NRL, and was probably quite dominant. You're coming in where it's like you are just a complete foil to this superstar halfback on your other side, and everything you do is just laying a platform to get Cleary in the best position to attack. And that's what Luai did so well for so many years. And we saw Luai, he didn't go wide very often. It was sort of he'd step back in field, drop his back row under, play short, whatever it might be. It's going to take Cole a lot of time to get used to this playing with Cleary.
If you have a look at the Isaiah Yeo try, it was a perfect example of it. Nathan Cleary got tackled. Cole was on the right and he wasn't ready. And Isaiah Yeo just overcalled him and went, yep, I need the ball here. It was great. You saw the entire Sharks defensive line. Obviously it happened in a split second. They hadn't addressed where Cole was. So they were all expecting a kick and Isaiah just went, take it.
So, as I said, it's definitely not a negative on Cole at all because he's not supposed to be Luai. It just was weird watching a Penrith side that didn't have that long hair flowing, stepping on the inside, back in. Just going to take a while to get used to that. Edwards, bit of a mixed night. Worked his absolute backside off. Still not a bad game, but just a couple of uncharacteristic... I think there might have been one errors, but just moments where you're like, oh, shit, like that's a bit unlike Dylan Edwards. But outside of that, he still got through a mountain of work. He is so fit.
Yeah, the stats say one error. I think he might have pushed a couple of passes coming out of his own end. And stuff
so there's a push pass. There was a play the ball where it didn't. I've got to say, he is a bit of a bad culprit on not doing that. He is a ball roller. So that might take him a little bit to get used to. But the thing with Dylan Edwards is like, even if he has those two errors or whatever it was, he still is going to run for 200 metres. Yeah. He is so fit. I would love to know who the fittest player in the NRL is because he'd have to be up there.
Yeah, him, Lockie Galvin, Clint
Gutho. He is just constantly on the ball, constantly running the ball. I feel like it's going to be interesting to see how he balances having a bit more... Because the problem with last year, when Cleary went down, it really was on Isaiah Yeo and Edwards to start almost ball playing to a degree. And it's going to be to find that balance for Edwards of still ball playing a little bit, but sticking to what makes him so good, which is obviously his ball running.
Yeah, well, it'll be very interesting this year, won't it? When Cleary does miss games, whether it's through injury or through the Origin period, whatever, Yowie will be missing as well through Origin, just to see there's no Luai to step up there. I mean, I know he was unavailable through Origin too, but he's done it for so many years. When they go down, who steps up? Is it Cole? Is it like Twungy? Yeah.
Isn't it going to be during Origin when Edwards goes, Yo goes, Cleary goes? Like, imagine playing Penrith that week. You think, oh, beautiful. Like, we're going to get them without the stars. You get a spine of Blaze Talangi, Dane Laurie, and Cole. Like,
Oh, shit.
I think I'd rather play Cleary than them. At least I know what I'm going to get. Those guys it would be so hard to prepare for them. Like, having Dane Laurie in your squad to pick him at 14, and obviously last night that played out as well as it could for the option of having Dane Laurie there, but he just stepped in and just did a job. Didn't miss a beat, and yeah, as you said before, mate, these plays they have where there's 9 people involved in it, they just never miss a beat. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
And just Dane Laurie, another great story. On the outer at the Tigers, couldn't really get a go. Goes to Panthers, and I'd argue Ivan Cleary probably sees him as a vital part of their squad, not just he's a fringy we bring in every now and then. Like, no, we actually, we want Dane Laurie weekly almost, ready to go. So great win from the Panthers. Little bit clunky at the start, found their rhythm, looked good, looked super aggressive. Now onto the Sharkies. In regards to good performances, outside of like maybe one time we should have passed or whatever, Jesse Ramian I thought was bloody.
Mate.
Holy.
How hard is he to tackle?
What?
He's a juggernaut. I'll tell you what, too. There was a play at the back end of this game where they went down the right-hand side. They fed it to Jesse. He ran a great line. I reckon against 15 other teams in this comp, he scores every day of the week. It was just the Penrith's defence was just so good. There was another one where Mulatalo crabbed across the field, and because I was on the aerial view watching it, you just saw Raymond. Everyone else stood still, and Raymond just went, yep, this is my line. He dropped the ball in contact, but he just flew onto it. I love Raymond as a footballer.
When he starts running that big beeline and he winds up from a
Yeah.
mile back, imagine being the poor body in front of that.
Oh, mate, he's a handful.
He's got to be there or thereabouts for Origin. I know that you have so many potential centres, but I've always felt he's our Origin standard player. I mean, not always, sorry. There was a couple of years he was a little bit quiet, but at least the last couple of years, he is just, an outside back at the Sharks that doesn't get all the headlines, doesn't get all the raps, doesn't get put in that same tier as top tier. But I think Jesse Ramian, find me a single centre in the NRL that has to match up against Jesse Ramian and goes, oh yeah, I'm going to have a bit of an easy day today. It never happens. He always takes it to whatever. Like his battles, I think it was Katoni Staggs at stages. Like some of his battles with his opposite centres have been incredible battles.
At Legion on Friday, the Sharkies doing their captain's run. They had a team photo after. And just as they called the team photo, Jesse Ramian walked past me and went up the sheds and he had the headphones on. And I said to one of the staff and having the photo, they're all holding the flags. And they said, Jesse just went inside. You want to go get him? And he goes, just let Jesse do his thing. Let Jesse do his thing. He's all right.
Mate, he is such a special player. I mean, look, the big talking point heading in, Adam Fanua-Blake, notoriously has quiet games against Penrith. Easily his best game against Penrith, Adam Fanua-Blake. Brought to the club to have big moments, to do big things, did exactly that. That try that he scored was just purely typical Adam Fanua-Blake. Only he could do that. Sharkies fans, the fact that you've got a guy that he's on a big wicket, very easy for him to come to the club and go, I've already won Dally M's back-to-backs, all this kind of stuff. He looks ready and raring to go. He looks like he wants to win a premiership.
Do you know who he ran through for his try?
Who?
Isaiah Yeo. Yo was the first up contact. Dylan Edwards sort of came in. Scotty Sorensen came in, but the further he went, the quicker he was moving. But it was Isaiah Yeo who doesn't miss a tackle, and
Never.
he just dominated him.
Crazy. So Sharkies fans, you've got a guy that looks like dead set on trying to win a premiership.
And mate, that's the thing with AFB. I remember about a year ago we had a conversation where I said he's not in my absolute top tier because he doesn't do it against the best sides. He's done it now for Tonga, and mate, what I saw last night, that's what we've been waiting for with AFB. He's able to dominate all the other sides, but now he's at a point in his career and he's at a club that needs someone to stand up against those teams, and fantastic to see him do it last night.
Yeah, 190 run metres and the big play that basically kept the game alive right at the end when it was either do or die. Like if he hadn't scored that try, it would have been probably a Penrith 13+ job. But
It was great for the game.
Absolutely.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Gave it another lease of life. But I think he's the best front row in the game. I tell you what, I reckon you could really notice him missing from the Warriors as well last night. That was it. He was obviously a big miss, but yeah, he looks ready to roll and a great addition to what was already a really good forward pack anyway.
Like AFB is really, we are getting used to him doing stuff like that. He's a front rower. He shouldn't be doing stuff like that, but he just seems to do it. If it's not every game, it's every second game. It's absolutely amazing. So really good to see that he's arrived at the Sharks and he looks as motivated as ever. He's not resting on his laurels.
What jumping in on your Kemby bet? Obviously, we're live at the game, so missing bits and pieces. We're filming sort of first thing this morning. Atkinson came on and played 13 minutes. Do we know what role he played there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think it was just through the middle.
It was through the
It was
middle,
almost
Okay.
in a little bit unnecessary. Maybe just trying to get him on. It is round 1, so look, it's not like it's round 24 where it's like you're desperate to win. You have to get the 2 points.
I think it's a great selection because he's so versatile.
Yeah.
He can cover so many key positions, so much coverage there for them. And there might be weeks where he doesn't get on or he plays 10 or 12 minutes. That's fine, but there will be injuries and he's there ready to go. Can play 1 to 7.
Yep. Big talking point going into is obviously your Trindles and your Hine. I know Hines had that knock on, and I think Trindle might have had something as well, but I'm happy. It's a pass mark for me. I know they had 1 or 2 errors each, but I feel like Hines, early in the game, he obviously had that try assist, got through his work. Trindle, geez, doesn't he do some special stuff? Like that little kick around, like the ball's on the deck, he kicks around the winger, then somehow he does another kick, but it lands in someone else's hand, and then I think they score the next play. He had 2 try assists. Look, I'm happy. That's a pass mark for me with Trindle and Hines, in my opinion.
What about Tricky's pass to Iro? That was
Beautiful.
An absolute
Pearler.
pearl. Yeah, and mate, I like what I saw at the halves last night. I think Trindle has to be the first receiver. I think that's when he plays his best footy, and Nico plays his best footy at second receiver, in my opinion. I think, I don't care what numbers they wear on their back. Trindle's the halfback. Hines is the 6 for me.
Yeah, and Hines, 23 tackles, only 2 misses. Trindle, 15 tackles, 2 misses. Like, if that's where they're at now, imagine where they're hopefully going to be at by the end of the season. Trindle kicks 500-plus metres. So, yeah, it looks like what I liked about it, I just felt like Hines more often just got the ball in his hands and ran. It's similar to what we talk about Luke Metcalf. Like, let's say there's been like 10 minutes where Hines has been a little bit quiet. So he just goes, boom, give me the ball. I'm just going to run it.
Well, I believe recently he said that, and he just went like, last year I sort of got away from my biggest strength, that is running the ball. So a lot of his off-season focus has been just getting back to that and running the ball and taking it on the line a lot more often.
I think it was great. They just took the kicking off Hines altogether. Goal kicking, general play kicking. I think it's just let him do what he's good at, which is run the football and just keep his eyes up.
Yep. Agreed. Now, when we talk about one of the great knocks, Blake Brayley, 61 tackles, only 2 misses, and Cam McInnes, 43 tackles, 0 misses.
Yeah, I was going to touch on Cam McInnes. Big week for him, number 19 in the hottest 100 a couple of weeks ago. So congrats to him there. 43, none missed, 140 metres as well, which is a little bit more than sometimes he.
Against the Penrith side as well.
Against the Penrith side, I think I was very impressed with how he played. I thought he was one of the Sharks' best last night as well.
Yep. I thought he was
they were a tough 140.
Yeah.
The way, fuck,
Jesus.
he's an animal.
So like I'm pretty happy with the Sharkies. From the perspective, my expectation is they get the shit out of the game, which is the not kicking out in the full, dropping the ball off a kickoff. Like, yes, I understand the frustrations from the Sharkies fans when you're like, the game was there to be won. We did so well. We fought so hard to stay in the game, and then we start dropping the ball for no reason. But the good thing about that is those are fixable things. It's not like on the field you were just completely dominated physically, or you just were constantly torn for numbers off edges and that. So those things are fixable. I think that's a good base to build off. They got so much depth. I mean, even some of these other forwards, they had relatively quiet nights. So if they step up and have big nights and get better towards the end of the year and really lean in and help McInnes and help AFB, all of a sudden you become a much better forward pack. In regards to other performances, boys, anyone else for the Sharkies?
I thought Will Kennedy was actually pretty good. I know there's been a bit of chat about him at fullback,
Yep.
But I thought he, played his role pretty well. Didn't make any errors. Ran the ball back pretty strongly. But there's been a bit of not pressure on his spot, but a bit of chat about it.
Game was on the line, and there was a huge play by Kennedy with the kick return.
Yeah.
And that was the knock we had on Kennedy, is we need these big moments from him. The game was on the line. He kick return, he passed to Multala, they made a line break and nearly got him back to win the game.
Yeah.
Put him away, he was there in support, and then got chased down by Martin, but he was in everything there. And he looked dangerous.
Yeah, he did.
Throughout.
Correct.
So that's a great sign that also early in the game, that I know his foot ended up being on the line, but it was a 40-20 save as well by Kennedy. I agree with you, mate. It's a great shout. Kennedy was he was much better. So Look, I personally, I think both teams played top tier footy. I think both teams showed why they're one of the better sides in the competition. I think both teams would be pretty happy with that. I know it's a bitter pill to swallow because the game was there to win, but in my opinion, I'd be happy as a Sharkies fan. But let us know what you think in the comment section, guys.
Just last thing on the Sharkies too. Just had a look at their draw. Actually, don't play Penrith again this year.
No
So
way.
that was their
That was their opportunity.
That's what I'm saying. That was their one shot. They're now going to go into finals. Going, okay, we probably had Penrith at the best time. We weren't able to get it done. That's my one concern.
Oof, okay. Just quickly before we finish up, 10-year offer. I mean, great news for Moses in regards to the Eels guys. I think we all agree that should have happened. 10-year off from the Knights reportedly with Dylan Brown. Thoughts quickly, Timmy?
If I'm Dylan Brown, I'm taking that cash. Living in Newcastle, beautiful Newcastle for the next 10 years. And if they can build around Dylan Brown and Kalen Ponga for the next 10 years.
Thoughts on them playing him 7?
I think you can do it.
Just going to take some time, you reckon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But especially when you've got a superstar like Kalen Ponga there, who has a big input in getting around the park as well, kicking game, all those things, I think you can do it.
Yeah. Roo?
Yeah, I'm not as high on it. If you're going to spend that much money on a guy that isn't proven at halfback, I don't love it. Sign him as a 5'8" just to get him there. Sure. A halfback signing a deal like that for that much money, I'm not convinced.
Thoughts on the actual, from a perspective of Dylan Brown getting a 10-year off from Knights, what do you think he should do? What would you do?
If I was Dylan Brown, I'd already be living in Newcastle.
Hammy, what would you do, mate?
Yeah, I'm with Roo. I think if you're getting that offered that sort of wicket, got to be interesting to see if he lets it play out. Is he expecting bigger offers from other clubs? Because, I mean, how are you supposed to top that, honestly?
I spoke about it on the Daily Diary. It's taken out of his hands now. It's actually not even his decision anymore. You get offered $13 million, it becomes about the family, the people you love, your brothers, your sisters, your mum. You know, their lives are now all taken care of. And most blokes, their number one goal is to try and take care of the people they love. It's almost literally not his decision anymore. Like his own feelings of like, oh, I wish I was still at the Eels. I love the Eels. They helped me develop. They almost become irrelevant. And the feelings of I've got this opportunity to take care of my family. And I think the Knights know that. I think that's why they come in with such a crazy offer where it's just too good to refuse.
And if it doesn't work at 7, put him back at 6 where we know he's a gun. Find a halfback to do a job. They don't have to be a superstar halfback. You've got a star 5'8" and a superstar fullback. The points are there. It'll be fine. Like, he doesn't have to be a 7.
And let's say you try for 2 years at 7,
Yeah.
It doesn't work. In 2 years' time, paying $1.3 million for one of the best sixes in the competition, because I believe that's where his potential is at. It's not when the salary cap goes up. That's actually not that much. It won't be that much money for a 6 as quality as Dylan Brown. I'm still unsure of whether I think physically he can be a 7. I think he has all the attributes to be a 7. I just don't know whether it suits his character because he's such a free spirit, but he definitely has the physical attributes to do it. Do it. Hammy, time to face a bit of music.
Let's do it. Now, the beauty of being over here in the US is we can't actually get onto the Sportsbet site to get the odds for the games.
That's
so
great.
you're just going to have to pick, either your head-to-head selection or your 1 to 12, 13 plus. But we'll do it anyway. We'll put our bets in and we'll have to check the odds when we're back in Australia.
Okay.
Thursday night, Allianz Stadium. Chookies v Broncos.
I'm going Bronx 13 plus.
Bronx 13 plus. Okay.
Hang in there, mate.
Oh, jeez. Goodness me.
Big week. Look, I haven't looked into any of these, but I'll just go Broncos to win.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go Bronx 13 plus.
I think Bronx, I'm just having them head-to-head in that one. Next game, out of the 9th, Campbelltown Stadium. The Tigers take on the Knights, boys. Who you got there?
I've got Knights to win.
I'll go Knights to win.
Knights 1 to 12 for me.
Tigers win that easily. I'm not
So
bold
you're
enough.
13
I'm
plus
not bold
then?
enough to go 13 plus. I'm just going
So
to
they
take.
don't win easily.
I'm just going to take them head-to-head.
Yeah,
Might do it by 12 exactly.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Dolphins take on the Rabbitohs up at Suncorp, the Wayne Bennett Cup. Who you got there?
Dolphins head to head.
I'll go Dolphins 1 to 12.
I'll go South 1 to 12.
I think Souths win that one head-to-head. I think Wayne gets them up for it. Dragons take on the Dogs at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium, 5:30 Saturday.
Dragons head to head. Oh,
It's going to be a cracking game,
Yeah,
man.
crazy
What a way
game.
to start. That's
Yep.
going to be awesome. Doggies 1 to 12.
I'll take the Dragons with the start, Hammy.
Okay.
Whatever it might be.
All right. I'm going to take the Doggies head-to-head in that one. Manly, they host the Cowboys, 7:30 on Saturday night.
that's a tough one. I'll go Manly 1 to 12.
So we can do lines and that sort of stuff as well, right?
Yeah, we just don't know who's favourite and stuff.
Really make things tough for you. I'll go Manly to cover whatever the line is.
Manly 1 to 12.
Yeah, I'm going to go Manly 13 plus in that one. And then Sunday, the Storm hosts the Eels in Melbourne. Who you got there?
I mean, you can go for a big play because you know the Eels will be massive outsiders, so you could really.
You saying Eels?
I'll
13
go.
plus,
I'll go Storm. I'll go Storm head to head.
Okay.
Storm 13 plus.
Yep.
Storm head to head.
Storm 13 plus for me as well.
There you go. That is Facing Music brought to you by Sportsbet. Make sure to head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Grab some Grumpy Coffee. Beautiful, beautiful blend, guys. We've got every day. We've got Very Grumpy. And honestly, guaranteed high quality. We've got pods, whole bean, all that good stuff. We've got the beans are actually from Colombia, Guatemala, Brazil, PNG. So get around it at grumpycoffee.com.au. Give us a follow on the feed. Massive thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It actually, as I said, it is really, really helping us, guys. It takes us 2 seconds, and it really does support the show. Thank you to all of the community, the rugby league community that said hi to all of us over here. It's been amazing. We really do appreciate it. And as usual, we'll all go fuck ourselves. Thank you.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.